that's going to be D. And that leaves heterogeneous to be A. Okay. Similarly, the next section kind of goes along with that. Water is actually known as H2O. So that is a compound. Iron is Fe. So that's an element. Okay. Light actually is not matter. That was one of the examples given. Okay. Trail mix. Ooh, trail mix is a mixture. And I can see all the different things in trail mix. So that is heterogeneous. Helium, that's an element. A metal alloy. That one's a little tricky because it's a combination of many different metals, which makes it a compound. Salt is NaCl, which is a compound. Soil. Soil can look two different ways. You could have put homogeneous mixture. However, I think it's going to be heterogeneous because you got all the rocks, you got the roots, you got the dirt, you got the fertilizer, etc. Gravity. Gravity is not matter. Air, however, is a mixture of things. There's so many things in the air we breathe. There's dust, there's oxygen. So there is elements in the air, but there's a lot of other things as well. So that's actually a homogeneous mixture. A sugar is compound and sodium is an element. If you have any questions, I can't see my screen right now. All I see is the document camera. So if you have any questions, please turn off your mic and ask them. And hopefully I'm not going too fast. Okay. Match the 6 phase changes to their correct spot on the diagram. Well, melting is a solid to a liquid, so that's 5. Condensation, so that's a gas to a liquid, so that's 4. Sublimation is 1. Freezing is a liquid to a solid, so that's 6. Deposition is 2, and that leaves evaporation to be 3. Okay. The next part, you can just skip. I'm not really worried about that. Okay. Let's keep moving on. Okay. What type of elements are present in an ionic bond? Those are a metal and a non-metal. That's big, metal and a non-metal. All right, and it explains what happens to the valence electrons. Well, these actually transfer electrons. Okay, they transfer. Okay. What type of elements are present in a covalent? Those are 2 non-metals. All right, that's the big difference. Ionic has a metal. Okay, and what happens to these? They share electrons. Any questions on that so far? So what I'm going to skip this next part. I'll come back to it. But from this, I know ionics have metals. So I'm going to skip this and go down to this section. Ionic has metals. Ionic has metals. So is hydrogen or carbon a metal? Nope. So that's covalent. Is lithium a metal? It is. Anything that has a metal is ionic. Calcium's a metal, ionic. There's no metals there. No metals there. Beryllium. Beryllium is a metal. So that's ionic. Okay, so if it has a metal, it's ionic. Okay, so hopefully we're starting to pick that up. All right, so let's go back up to this part we skipped. So ionics. Ionics have metals. And what I like to think of ionic is salt, NaCl. That's salt. And covalent, I like to think of as sugar. Okay. And I hope you guys remember the lab we did. The lab where we Some people stirred it. Some people put it on a hot plate, the salt and sugar. And some people used a little battery thing to see if it conducted electricity. All right, so these are the ones that we're going to analyze. All right, so which ones stirred in the water? Well, the salt stirred in, so that's ionic. Which one is crystals? The salt is the crystal, so that's ionic. Which one was non-conductive? So if you had the battery, you probably saw that the salt conducted electricity. NaCl conducted electricity, whereas the sugar or covalent compounds do not. Okay. Which one has a metal? Ooh, metals. We learned that earlier. Metals are ionic. Which one shares electrons while sharing? It's covalent. Which one transfers? Well, that's ionic. Which one has low melting points? Which one melted first? Covalent actually melts first. And covalent has two nonmetals. Is there any questions so far?
On our study guide, there was another one in this section. It's conductive when dissolved.
Yeah.
That's just the same thing as, so it'd be ionic.
Yes.
Oh wait, there's 5 on ours.
Is mine out of order?
Oh, never mind. I'm dumb. So your sharing electrons is in the first column, not the second one.
Oh.
It's in the second column on ours, so I was confused for a second.
Oh, I must have printed off funny.
Never mind.
All right, cool. Okay. And then at the bottom, it says, which type of compound uses prefixes? Well, that's covalent. List the 10 prefixes. All right, so hopefully you guys are starting to get them. Mono, di, tri, tetra, penta. Oh, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca. Hopefully we've been saying those. Hopefully they're starting to stick a little bit. Okay. Scroll this down. Okay, we're doing pretty good. Which type of compound is neutral formula? So that's ionic. And the trick to do this is called the crisscross method. The crisscross. Okay. Okay. What charge is associated with the following groups? So if you have your periodic table at home, hopefully you were able to find out that group 1 has a 1 charge. Group 2 has a 2 charge. Group 17 has a 1 charge, and group oxygen has a 2 charge. All right. Okay. So let's check this out. The bottom chart. Here we go. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to determine if it's ionic or covalent first. And if it's ionic, it has to have a metal if it's ionic. Okay, it has to have a metal. So is sodium or chlorine a metal? Yes. So that's ionic. Is potassium a metal? Yes. So that's ionic. Is phosphorus a metal? No, that's covalent. Is nitrogen or hydrogen? No, that's covalent. Calcium is a metal. That's ionic. Magnesium is a metal. So that's ionic. Is carbon or sulfur a metal? Nope, that's covalent. And potassium, once again, is a metal. So hopefully you can determine metals are ionic. Okay. So when naming ionic, all right, when naming ionic, so this is going to kind of go back to the notes we took just at the start of class. When naming ionic, all we have to focus about is there's no prefixes. There's just element 1, element 2, ending in I. Okay? So this ionic. So element 1 is just sodium. Element 2 is chlorine. However, instead of chlorine, it's going to turn into chloride. So that's how you do ionic. So I'm going to do all the ionics first. Okay. The next one, I got to do the crisscross method. I have potassium. Potassium is in column 1, so it has a 1 charge. And then I have fluorine in column 17. Column 17 has a 1 charge. So when you crisscross them, you have 1 of each. You have 1 of each. All right, so I did that ionic. Let's go to the next ionic. Calcium oxide. Calcium, column 2 has a 2 charge. Oh, my computer froze. There we go. Calcium. And then oxide. Oxide has a 2 charge as well. So when you crisscross, it'll be Ca2O2. Ionic done. Let's go to the next ionic. Magnesium. Mg has a 2 charge. Chlorine has a 1 charge. So when you crisscross them, you're going to have 1 Mg and you're going to have 2 chlorines. And the last ionic, name of the first element, K, is potassium. And oxygen turns into oxide. So there's all the ionics. Is there any questions about the naming ionics? All right, so let's finish strong with covalent. So covalent, I gotta use my prefixes. So remember, gotta use prefixes, except mono for the first one. So if I look at my covalent examples, I just gotta come up with the name. So phosphorus is P. Pentabromide. All right, so I know bromide is Br. Penta is 5. So that's covalence done. Okay, so I need to come up with the name. So I need the prefix. So the prefix for 2, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. The prefix for 2 is di. So dinitrogen. And the prefix for 4 is tetra. And hydrogen. Hydrogen has to end in I. So hydride is what it will turn into. Okay, I have one more example, the CS. So C is just carbon. Remember, I do not use the prefix mono in front here. However, I can over here. So I have mono, and sulfur turns into sulfide. And that's the review guide. That's the review guide. How'd you guys feel on it? Do you guys feel kind of confident on it, or? We'll have a few days to study. Well, we got today, tomorrow. Just a review, okay? Does anybody want me to go over any more, or can I take this off the screen? All right. So that is all I wanted to go over, just the study guide. Tomorrow we're gonna play play a game in here, and it'll be nice to get things back to normal.